So Draven takes it all in the first ever Spiritforged Regionals in China. Going against Fiora though, but ended up winning 2-0. So what does this necessarily mean for the meta? What do the deck lists look like? And what did that finals match actually turn out to be? We're going to be watching that, commentated by yours truly. All of that and more starting right now. So yeah, when we went into this, it would be a surprise if anything else ended up winning. But even still, having a Fiora actually be the one that was in the finals was a pleasant surprise. Out of all of them, Fiora, don't get me wrong, has a really good matchup, but can really kind of struggle into the Draven matchup. I mean, able to go very big, able to have a great legend ability where anytime one of your units become mighty, you can tap your legend to be able to channel a rune. Sounds like a very good idea. But at the same time, it's like if you kind of take out Fiora, the champion that allows your units to be accelerated for a recycling of a rune, you just kind of fall behind and there's no chance of you really being able to catch up. But still, after 2 days of competition, Fiora was able to make it. Now again, let's do that recap real quick of what these decks what decks actually showed up for these 2 days of competition. For those of you who don't know, yeah, it ended up that Draven had 183 deck lists of the 511 competitors. They had 35% of the field. Likewise, Aurelia had 62 at 12%, Kaisa 39 at 7%, though didn't have any necessarily doing all that much in the quarterfinals, which is really interesting to see. We'll talk about that later. Victor had one of probably the worst showings, only one in the top 64 with 28 decks showing up. And then Fiora, 24 decks and only one. Well, I mean, only one's going to make it to the semifinals, but you get what I mean. Really intense to see there. And then going over into day number 2, Draven leading the field with 40% or 40 decks or 62% of the field, which is just absolutely crazy. Aurelia also doing rather well. 8 decks managing to make it at 12%, and even 2 Ezreal, which is really interesting. And we'll have another video coming out tomorrow that will actually be talking about the overall games that ended up coming out for day 2. Kind of what we saw yesterday, or yeah, Saturday that I made. We're going to be doing that on Monday. But guys, this is going to be specifically just on the finals with the full commentary and the deck list. So it's going to be really fun to watch. Excited to bring this to you because, yeah, it's really interesting. Now, a lot of people are here and debating that Draven is just currently a bit too powerful of a deck, and I can see why people would be saying that. He has the legend ability that says when you win a combat, draw 1. And that is going to be completely different from a showdown. A combat is pretty much literally when two come together in a battlefield and say, hey, how you doing? That's about it. And so even with something like Reaver's Row, which specifically says, when you defend here, you may move a friendly unit here to base, and you're like, well, I'm defending here. I don't want to lose a combat to Draven, right? So I'm just going to go and pull back on Reaver's Row. Well, that's one combat. So Draven will draw a card. If you also even use his champion, which says, when I win combat, play a gold gear token exhausted, then you get a gold and you get a card. So it's like, wow, you can really go big fast. And that's going to be really interesting to consider because there's a lot of different dynamics that can go about all of this. So the entirety of the deck list, though, is going to have an even distribution of runes of 6 Chaos, 6 Fury. Awesome. Targon's Peak, which is really good. Obelisk of Power, which is an interesting choice, especially because Draven does have a very high power cost in his deck. So even to be able to start with an extra rune to maybe if you're going second, you can get Draven out turn 1, or if you're going first, you can do something like a Pouty Poro and a stack deck. That can be really good to already give you so much of an advantage when you are going against your opponents. Now, Spinning Axe is going to be a really interesting one, only at 2, which I find kind of unique here. Also, 1 Cleave, 2 Switcheroos, which is an interesting choice. to ride the winds, Falling Star, and again, that power cost is going to be very expensive, but then 3 Overzealous, 2 Fighter Flights, which is interesting because Fighter Flights, of course, can be defied a little bit more, but you do got to be a little bit careful with Overzealous Fan, which says when I defend, you may kill me to move an attacking unit to its base. Well, if that's the case, it's going to be more like I could still do a not so fast or something along those lines. And so, but still, it is a very powerful card and one that needs to be respected. Now, then we also have Treasure Hunter, which says, when I move, play a Gold Gear token Exhausted. This, again, can be one of your best openings. Also really interesting that he only has 2 in the deck. Why I say that is because Treasure Hunter, when you are able to play in the early game, even when you play it in the mid game, you can just keep sending it back and forth between battlefields, essentially, one that you occupy, and then you're creating a gold every single turn, and that alone can already make a really big difference in your game. Yes, it only has 1 might, but even it being a 2 cost can be a really big difference maker here for you. And then Tide Turner is a very good sneaky card because you're already running. You're kind of like the Teemo of Draven essentially here because you have Tide Turner, Switcheroo, Edge of Night, and that's the only and Fighter Flight, which also can be hidden. So there's 4 potential cards that you can be hiding that your opponent has to try to play around, and that dynamic can also be a really good answer here. And so you got to be careful because if all of a sudden you then swing in with like switching in a Forerunner, which has 6 might, with like a Treasure Hunt or with the Tide Turner, which only has 2, then it's like, whoa, what's going on here? And even going from one battlefield to another. So if you have the Tide Turner in the weak battlefield and you have a super built battlefield, you activate Tide Turner, they just swap over the battlefields, and you have like a new 6 might unit there, and Tide Turner's on the other side. So there's already a lot of really interesting stuff that we can expect to see here, and Tide Turner adds such a good curveball there to really throw off your opponents. Also, it's just a good 2-drop to have in case you need to just play one. Next, I absolutely love the 2 Rebukes. Really good options there because you can go in and just say, hey, by the way, you get returned to your hand, by the way. Yeah, that's really fun. And it can really slow down your opponents. Yes, you do have to play around a lot of counters and things like that. The Fiora spell, you need to try to, her signature spell, which can counter your spell and then add the spell's cost to their might. That's scary in and of itself. But then all of a sudden, if they don't have that, Rebuke can really slow them down. Now, it's also really interesting, though, in the mirror match because you might try to Rebuke something and then they just go and Fight or Flight it back to base because Rebuke specifically says return a unit at a battlefield to its owner's hand. So there is a little bit of a risk and reward here that you're trying to differentiate. It also should be noted that it's very interesting that they did not play any hard bargains, which is a really surprising thing. Even in the sideboard, they don't have any hard bargains, so they're going straight at you. They're saying, I just need to get the card draw. If you hard bargain me, I'm down the rune cost, essentially, but that's okay. Or if you play a scary spell, I think I'm going to be okay because I'll be able to come back at you the next time. It should also be noted, it's really interesting that they have the Noxus Hopefuls, again, that has a Legion ability where it costs two less, and you're already going to be playing a lot of cards every turn, so to be able to get a 4 might unit guaranteed for 2 is really good. And that's going to be way different than what we see with like Battering Ram, for example, where Battering Ram gets 1 cheaper for every single spell you play, but you're racing to try to play 4 spells, 3 spells to be able to get a 5 might out for 2. Yes, that's very good, but you got to be a little bit careful about that because it can't always be a guarantee. If you had a lot of power cost on your last turn, you're not going to necessarily have enough runes to be able to play this game. And so I do really like this deck list. It looks really good. There might be a few things that I would switch around personally, but again, he won the regionals in China. I didn't. But still, there's certain things that fit my playstyle or my ideas a little bit better for me that I would want on a play test. But I also love that the Thunder Song is able to be played. Again, that is going to be 2 in the deck, and when you play me, opponents can't play cards this turn, immediately just shuts it down. Keep in mind, it can still be reacted to. It cannot be actioned to, just reaction. But as soon as that completely resolves, no more cards for the rest of the turn from your opponent. Very nice insurance. And so if they do have hidden cards and they're like, okay, well, I need to figure that out, this can also be a really good option into the mirror match, which I think is why he just main decked it at that point because of how powerful it is. Also even love the Mind Splitter too, the one Mind Splitter, just because it says, hey, I can look at your hand, get all of that knowledge, and then say, oh, by the way, that card is gone. That can be the game-changing card there because it's just like, hey, that's your most powerful card. I don't want you to have that. Get it out of here. And they can literally do nothing about that. So really cool to see that. 2 Kai'Sas I agree with. 3 Darius, really good, especially with Darius being able to ready himself up. You can go into a battlefield. You can take it. If you hold it, he readies up. You then move back to base, you play 2 cards, he readies back up, he can take the other battlefield. And so that dynamic alone of going back and forth can be really good. And then against the odds at 2, Longsword at 1, Ride the Wind at 1, Kai'Sa at 1, for Ferris Forerunner at 1, Thundersong at 1, and Mind Splitter at 1. So very interesting side decking choices too. One that I don't necessarily, I mean, it's just real interesting. Like here, I'm just going to give me a little bit more insurance on everything here to make sure that I have that bit more of consistency, or if I need to go one way or the other, awesome. So really cool to see. Mind Splitter might also even be a really good option into Ezreal, because especially as we go into more of like the downwell Ezreal, if you are able to get Mind Splitter out, you can see, 1, their entire hand, and 2, be like, yeah, you're not playing that card. So, you know, if you do need to get that little extra insurance, awesome. Great way to do that. And so, really impressed with this deck, though. It looks so good, and the gameplay that we're going to be watching together here is pretty exciting. Even though it was a 2-0, it is still something to really watch, especially for you Fiora players who are considering maybe taking Fiora to Vegas or over to Italy with those regionals. You know, it managed to get the semifinals. That says a lot. So we'll see what all that takes, but also here we go. We are going over to the Fiora deck list. Now again, like what her legend ability says, that when one of your units become mighty, you may exhaust me to channel 1 rune exhausted. And a mighty unit is when it has 5 or more might. So really cool. Kind of a lot like the Volley Bear of set 1, but you know, instead of just when you play a big unit, it's just when it becomes mighty. So what does Fiora do? Well, Fiora loves adding a lot of might to some units. Now, Fiora, for example, is going to be a 4 might, so anything that you add or buff. So if you play Punch first, boom, that immediately becomes mighty until the end of turn. It still counts, so you can tap Fiora and go there. Love that, too, that there's Dreaming Tree. You got to be a little bit careful about that, because it does say the first time you choose a friendly unit with a spell each turn, draw 1. Each turn also can be on your opponent's turn, which is really helpful. But still, you got to be careful because, you know, if you're using like Challenge, or Hidden Blade is really good because you can draw 3 cards essentially, but it has to be with a spell. And you don't necessarily have a whole ton of spells here to be able to choose around, which you got to be a little bit careful with. But it's still really good. The problem with Dreaming Tree is that there is still a lot of other decks out there that choose units, so they can really benefit off of Dreaming Tree. Next, of course, is going to be Sunken Temple. So, with that, it says when you conquer here, with 1 or more mighty units, you may pay 1 to draw 1. So again, already a really good one there too. One to really help you out a little bit. It can be a little bit hard for your opponents sometimes to be able to utilize that. And really good. And then Monastery of Hirana. It says when you conquer here, you may spend a buff to draw 1. So again, trying to get a lot of stuff going there to figure things out, but it's a really fun deck list. Now, why is that? Well, first and foremost, we're going to be going into the signature spell here. Can be played at reaction speed, and it is the only counter spell in this color combination, which is absolutely awesome. And it is powerful 2 and 2 power as a cost, and it says choose a friendly unit and a spell, counter that spell, and give that unit plus might equal to that spell's energy cost this turn. Remember, energy cost is the one in the circle, not the power cost, which is with the symbols. But still, I mean, really impressive to be able to see. And then, of course, the Fiora as the chosen champion. Interesting choice because, again, like what we said, normally what we see is the other Fiora being chosen to try to accelerate units out. This is not the case. That's really interesting. Now, still, this Fiora is very powerful. There's 3 of her in this deck. This is the victorious one. And it says, while I'm mighty, I have deflect, ganking, and shield. So she gets +1 might when defending. And she is mighty when she, of course, has +5. Then you also have armor, Warmog's armor, which adds a buff when you conquer, and +1 might when equipped. Then also punch first, which is really good at 1 and 2 power. So you have to recycle 2 runes. But even with that, you give a unit +5 might this turn. 1 sabotage, which allows you to, look at your opponent's hand and take out a non-unit card and put it on the bottom of the deck. Sabotage or salvage to be able to destroy a gear and draw 1, really good. Pit rookie to buff a unit when you play me, buff another friendly unit. So really good. Unsung hero. If I was mighty, draw 2 when it dies. And the reason why you mainly play that is because of BF Sword. BF Sword is going to be adding 3, which is going to be just enough to get it to 5, but that still is going to be a 4-cost equipment that still needs to have 1 recycled. Now, you do, of course, have the 1 equipped Fiora. You can also switch champion, so whichever Fiora you want to play matchup to matchup, you can play Fiora Worthy if you want. And that can get your accelerated units out. It's also really nice because you can get her out turn 1 if you're going second, or turn 2 if you, have the, if you're going first, then on your second turn, then you can immediately go in. So really cool to see all of that. And then even with all this, Hidden Blade for some card draw or to take care of some big problems. Challenge, again, to take care of the enemy's problems, and that can hit anywhere, which is really nice. And you just say, hey, my might versus your might, what are you going to do? And you do have to worry about that a little bit in green, but otherwise it's not necessarily too big of an issue, and it's not one that can really be escaped with like fight or flight or anything like that, because it just says you just pick an enemy unit. So really interesting there. You have to be a little bit careful, of course, with reaction equipment such as Draven's signature equipment, which can add +3 and be played at reaction speed. Really scary. Doran's Blade, +2, equip for 1, costs 2, and you're running 3. And then otherwise, 3 Lucians. This is also really good to avoid some combat. He is also Weapon Master, which is really fun because he can immediately equip an equipment that is out on the battlefield, which can really help mitigate your power costs here. Absolutely love that. And then when the first time I conquer each turn, ready me. So he can attack in, conquer, get back out. That can stop a combat from being resolved for Draven, which can slow down their card draw, which can be a big power boost. Likewise, 2 First Mate, 3 Called Glories, 3 BF Swords, and 3 sets. Then likewise on the side decking, we have Unyielding Spirit, still a pretty good card. They're running 2 of those. It blocks all spell and ability damage for the turn, which can be helpful. 1 more Sabotage, 2 more Salvages for gear destruction. Cannon Barrage, deal 2 to all enemy units in combat, could be a big swing for you. And of course, 1 Facebreaker. And I gotta say, I really do love this Fiora deck and what it was able to do. It got a lot done. And again, for it losing in the finals 2-0 to Draven is not anything to mitigate the accomplishment that was Fiora making it to the finals. The amount of Dravens, I mean, heck, 183 started, and while it was still 65% of the field, Fiora was able to combat against every single deck and probably multiple Dravens and still come out on top. So definitely something to keep an eye on there, and one that is gonna be interesting. But still, again, this Draven deck is really well piloted. But without any further ado, let's then go ahead and see what this finals match is going to look like. I'm gonna be curious about this because, yeah, like we said, it was a really interesting matchup to see what it was going to take to get everything going here. And I was a little bit worried that it was going to be a 2-0 scenario. But even still, it did prove to have a lot of versatility, more than what I was maybe expecting. And so here we go with the finals match. They are getting started. They're shuffling and dealing out their cards. And again, I can only imagine how much pressure there probably is here in going into a finals match. And again, this is going to be a very long day of competition. You already played, probably 10, 11, 12 hours the previous day. And here you are on day 2 playing another 10, 11 hours, and boom, you're in the finals. Like, that's got to be crazy. And so I'm only worried a little bit about like the fatigue here, but even still, really great. Love the alt art set. Look at that. Dang. So, I mean, heck, even just maybe pulling that is reason enough to run Fiora. I mean, if I pulled an alt art set like that, I probably would just be bringing Fiora over to over to Vegas at that point. And so anyway, here we go, guys. We are going to be starting this match. And again, there already is kind of a lot of hate in the meta for Draven because of his legend ability. Everyone does say that it is the most broken because of how combats are defined. And in a lot of ways, that criticism and complaint essentially is very valid because it is such a powerful matchup. Draven being 65% of the top 64 is nothing to bat an eye at. That is a lot. That is over 50% of the field. And so already a very powerful combination here. And here we go with Fiora going first. And again, starting with the other Fiora being in the champion zone. That's going to be the one that gets ganking, the Victorious. And then already going to be having the signature spell of Draven. That is going to look so good, full foil. And that's got to be one of the things that I absolutely love about this matchup, or about Riftbound in general. Sorry, long day. About Riftbound in general is the fact that they all their foil cards at rare or above is foiled. So if you want to foil out a deck, it is really easy to, and it also just makes the game look a lot better. So really love to see that. And already early on, able to go in and get a point, and then playing the Fiora to get it back into base. Anything to get it mighty will be appreciated at this point. And next turn could be big. And especially with Draven missing a 2-drop and having to play out an equipment, especially one equipment that is hidden, is very interesting to see, because again, you might even be giving your opponent maybe a little extra turn to go up to 3. And again, the point value is going to be a little bit tough to maybe try to come back from. But again, the biggest thing about the Draven deck list here is that it can continue to swing and be able to accelerate units out at a very rapid rate. And so we're going to be playing the Draven and immediately passing, because on the following turn, you could be getting a Kaisa out accelerated. You could even be doing like a Darius that can swing in for 7. That can be very difficult for Fiora to try to come in for. And even still, potentially going up to 3, having a mighty Fiora, that can be really fun and very difficult to try to play around even as the Draven player. And you always got to keep in the back of your head that there is a chance that they have one signature spell. Now, they might not, but it's nice to try to play around it and figure out my best line of attack without giving them a huge buff, with also taking out my one of my key spells here in order to get things done. And so already the Fiora is going to be going mighty. Then the challenge on the Draven is going to be a great option there. And again, no hard bargain. Even with, if he could, there isn't enough runes for him to be able to activate that. So again, no units out onto the battlefield, and immediately the Fiora has every single text upon it as possible. It is mighty. And so we'll see what is able to be done, but still has 4 damage on it until a battle resolves. But still, there's nothing that just necessarily says deal 1 damage. So we're going to be going out with a Doran's Blade there, equipping that to the Fiora for that extra insurance, and then moving in to the Fiora going to spin the buff to be able to draw a card, and Fiora is still going to be mighty, and then the -4 will heal after that if there is no response and the point is able to go through. And so any response, also, if you do have one rune up, it pretty much might mean that the Draven player is just going to be playing a stacked deck, but doesn't necessarily need to mean that. And so, again, this is going to be a big turn for Draven. Already down 0-3. Went the day 10-2. And also, even the Fiora going 10-1-1. I would really love to see the matchups of this Fiora because, again, it feels like you could just completely be shut down in the Draven matchup. But still, only having one loss is a very big feat in and of itself. And so I absolutely love that. So there is a stack deck in hand, but again, you need to start getting some units out. And so going to be recycling one, playing out a Darius. Now, when the second card is coming out, that is going to be a big deal. And that is going to be a Noxus Hopeful, which is going to be readied up. That's going to be +2 at 7. Then going to be attaching the cape to be able to move in. Now, that is going to be 9 at that point, and that's going to be the biggest thing, too. Going against the Fiora, it is tapped out, so there's nothing that you can be necessarily worried about. If they have even one up, you're worried about a punch first. And so you got to be so careful about all of that. But still, really good options here. Really well played by the opponent. And I'm going to be curious to see how all of this is going to continue to be able to interact as we get deeper into the game. But the Draven is on the board and in a battlefield and can even now start to hide cards, such as Fight or Flight and cards like that, to be able to protect the battlefield. And so right now, the Fiora has a little bit of an option to try to make. It does have some units out on the board. That's good to see. Is going to be recycling one. Might be a sabotage at this point. Oh, for the equip. So is floating one in this case. So we'll see what is able to be done. Again, the buff is coming in with another pit rookie coming into the battlefield. Now, not necessarily something that you do love to see. You want to get some bigger units out, especially to try to contest. Gosh, excuse me. So, anyway, with that, that's going to be a really interesting idea here on trying to get things moving, building up your board state. The nice part is trying to get 2 cards after this is going to be a really big deal. And immediately going to move in again. The Hidden Blade is going to be very powerful on taking out the Darius, but again, you're giving your opponent 2 cards, but still, now going up to 5 points, 2 battlefields under the control. It seems like this game is going to be going for the Fiora, able to be shutting down a lot, but still, even a Noxus Hopeful is going to be big, but that 1 rune up, again, could very well be a punch first, and that adding of 5 is so scary to try to deal with. And so now you got to be very careful here. Do you want to go more with the attacking into Reaver's Row, trying to bait out maybe the punch first? Because once the Fiora is tapped out, you're in a lot better of a scenario. Except I think still the Fiora might be buffed. Yep, the Fiora, or the unit, is still buffed at least. So you could even spend that buff to play a Call to Glory. So there's a lot that you got to be a little bit careful of, because the might can be added, and that can be far greater than what Draven might be able to answer with. And already being down by 4, you don't want to make a big mistake here. You got to be so careful about how you go about that. And so, again, this is going to be the big turn. Draven hasn't necessarily been able to get things started, but you did still give him 2 additional cards. And so you got to be careful here and try to get some things moving. And the Kai'Sa Accelerated is going to be a good start. Immediately moving into the Pit Rookie, that's going to be 4-2. Are you okay with losing that? Because if you do, Kai'Sa Conquer is going to be activated. and the Draven ability, giving him 2 additional cards. And again, that card draw is going to be huge, and a Falling Star is going to be in hand. Now, again, you got to really watch the power costs here. You don't want to recycle too many runes, because if you do, you can just really be in trouble. But he is going to equip the cape again, going in 6 to 5, no response. So the Hidden Blade was unable to, or sorry, not the Hidden Blade, the Punch First was not in hand, but still going to be able to get 2 cards off of that, and it is now 3 to 5, much more manageable here, and so many cards in hand for the Draven combatant, so he can even hide a couple if he so chooses. But even with a Falling Star, he can even devastate a little bit more to try to get things under control, but doesn't necessarily need to either. But still, it very well could be 5 to 5 in this next match, and all that climbing that Fiora did is immediately mitigated just because of the sheer amount of card draw. Yes, it was great to take out the Darius. That was awesome. But to also give him those 2 cards can really jumpstart the shift of the tide to give this Draven the tools needed to combat against this Fiora. And that's going to be the biggest thing between these 2 decks, too, is going to be the draw disparity. Draven can just get a lot more draw power with what it's able to do. He is going to here commit to the Falling Star to destroy 2 more units. Now there is only 1. And again, now you very well might be using this entire turn to try to rebuild your base. You have a lot of runes, luckily, but again, you can really slow things down there on accident, or, you know, not intentionally, and that can be very tough. So again, going to be recycling 1 to equip. The Pit Rookie is going to be going up to 4. 1 floating again. And then immediately is going to be going into the Reaver's Row. The Kai'Sa can back out if needed. Everything is tapped out, though. And so, yep, the Kai'Sa is going to be pulling out, going up to 6. But you still have to figure out how to get those final 2 points. That's going to be the hardest part. Or even worse, when you get to 7 points, you almost feel a little bit landlocked, if you will, because having to be able to conquer both or to hold a battlefield for the duration of an entire turn can be very difficult for you to be able to do. And so, again, though, this is going to be a big turn here, trying to figure out how can I go about building up my board state? What can I do to get into this game and stay in this game? I don't want to get Draven up to 5. Or up to 5 especially. And so a Sabotage is going to be a really good step in that direction. And looks like, yeah, 2 called shots and even the Signature Blade. It's like I would almost even be willing to go and pick the Signature Blade itself. That +3 at reaction speed can be such a big difference maker there. Especially if you do play a challenge thinking that your 6 might is going into like a 4 might Kai'Sa and then they react. That can be scary. I know that was something that we talked about, and this is not an easy choice for the Fiora player, so a big choice here for him to make. But also, even just knowing the hand is going to be a big help. But again, once you get the 2 stack decks going, even though he is only going to be up to, the Draven player is only going to be up to 5. Gosh, that is a lot of cards. Yeah, that is a scary hand. Now, of course, at this point in the game, the Mind Splitter is pretty much going to be a dead card. You're not going to be playing that, essentially. You're waiting 2-3 turns. So yeah, it looks like the signature spell is going to be picked. Though even still, Falling Star would have been a really good option there too. But it's like, yeah, I totally get it. Either one of those, that is going to be a tough choice. Now again, he is writing down everything, so you get to see everything in hand. You get to write that down as it's notated, and then even while they play it, you can take your pen, you can cross it out, and call it good there. And so we'll see how it's going to be able to go. Spending that 1 might there, and again, you're preparing for the Falling Star. And again, going to be playing the Fiora, so it is going to need to be able to be mighty. But if it is not, yeah, it looks like Weapon Master is going to come in with the Lucian. That is a lot stacked there. Being able to channel a rune because of the Leona legend ability. But still, currently right now, the Fiora is not mighty, so it doesn't get all the additional buff, deflect, and shield. Or you know what I mean, yeah. And oh my gosh, a lot of cards in hand, though only 5 runes and a big battlefield. So again, he's basically saying, I am gonna try to put everything in a battlefield as a Fiora player to say, how are you going to be able to take this battlefield? Now, that's going to be a very good question, but again, only 2 cards in hand for the Fiora. That's going to be difficult to try to continue to maintain the answers here, and something you got to be watching for. And so again, looking at the discard, only 3 cards in discard at this point of the game. Kind of crazy. So yeah, being able then to go and look at 3 with stacked deck. No cards at the ready. He has spent all his resources as the Fiora player. So this is almost like a free turn in the sense of I don't have to worry about any counters. I don't have to worry about any punch first. And that's going to be a big help too with all of this. And so still though, you have 5 might with the Lucian, 2 might with the Pit Rookie, 4 might with the Fiora. And even still, the Fiora was able to get through a good amount of cards here. And that's going to be a big difference maker, too. So again, though, it's like, okay, I'm down by 2. What do I need to do to be able to get back into this game? What do I need to do to be able to deal with this board state? If I pass this turn, and there is so much that is already at the one battlefield, they can completely reinforce here. So it's like I very well could go a falling star here to try to take out some units. That would be very helpful. But again, you'd be either taking out like a Pit Rookie and then trying to destroy a Fiora. That wouldn't actually be too bad. But then, no, you would actually still be able... gosh. Yeah, this is a very difficult situation to try to play around here. And so I completely understand why he is taking as much time as he is to try to play this game. So again, he's already spent 1 for the stack deck. Doesn't have enough to play Falling Star. You need to have 2 red runes out. And so some other answer needs to be able to come in. Also, maybe even Trinity Force might be a good one to include in Fiora. Because if anything, that's going to cause for 1 a target on the unit, but still that could be a good insurance to try to, if they can't deal with those answers, that you're able to gain 2 points. And so it is an expensive equipment, being 4 and a power to be able to equip, but still is a really good answer to be able to have in your arsenal to try to really race, especially if you happen to go like turn 1 a 2-drop unit, turn 2 you go with the Trinity Force, equip it, take a battlefield, and if there's not something that they can do to get around that, you very well could start to get a lot of points. So here we go now. The battlefield is starting to get stacked up a little, or the base is starting to get stacked up a little bit more. Looks like is going to be giving his opponent this count, and then going with an overzealous fan in the other battlefield to say, hey, you're going to essentially need to have to attack in here twice if you can. And right now, there isn't necessarily anything to give his units ganking. And so maybe if he tries to get... We know that there's at least a 3-cost Fiora in the hand. I think that is one of the 3 cards now. Oh, and the salvage is not something that you want to see at this point. Yes, it can still try to draw you a card. It can take off the extra equipment, which is really nice. But yeah, it looks like he is going to be going in with the set. That is also going to be another channeled rune because of the Fiora. It comes in at a 4 might. Then it goes up to 5 with its ability to add 1. So it immediately gets to then go and channel that rune. That is going to be very helpful there. And he is going all in on trying to deal with this board state. But that's the problem. If you can deal with the board state, that is going to be so difficult. And it's like, gosh, if you had a hidden blade here even, that would be absolutely great. But again, no hidden cards here. And so this is going to be a turn that Draven needs to take here. It's ride or die here. And so you got to be very careful about how you go about that. That is a lot of might added. Also, the buff can still be spent for a call to glory. And 4 runes at the ready. So it's like if you do play a spell, you're worried about the signature spell. But you have to figure out how to attack in. That's going to be the hardest part here. How do I deal with this board state? So again, this is the power here. But here's the thing too: if Fiora went second, how different of a game would we possibly have had? That's going to be the hard part. Fiora does have a very powerful thing here going in round 1, but still, the Draven has a lot to think about, a lot to consider here as we go into this matchup. And it all comes down to this. He's had a great climb, but essentially giving his opponent those first 3 points early in game, just being able to play out the cape, there wasn't necessarily much to be able to do. So going to be going in, creating a gold off of that, passing priority. Well, first off, Reaver's Row is going to be activating, so he's not necessarily passing priority. Now the showdown starts, goes back to him. We are going to be going in with a switcheroo. So that 1 might is going to be switching with something, and the mites immediately will go, and the treasure hoarder is going to be able to do some big stuff here. Now, you're hoping, do you have the signature spell? If he has the signature spell as the Fiora player, this game is probably over and done with, but I think that he doesn't. I don't think that he does here. Now, here we go. Yep, that is going to be now a +4, so it's going to be a 5. And it looks like, switching with the Lucian to go down to 1. And so, wow, that switcheroo is a big difference maker. And that's also one of the nice cards to hide when you have a treasure hoarder and they attack in. And you reveal it, and it's just like, oh, by the way, my treasure hoarder is now bigger. Really great answer there. Great response. And then there we go with the salvage to try to defeat that. Draw a card to try to get the answers, and it looks like there isn't going to be one in hand. No signature spells game 1 so far for the Fiora. But that punch first, though, is going to be a good answer, adding 5. That is devastating. So this is going to be the big showdown, and this is going to be the one that determines the game here. Either you hold and you win, or you don't and you lose. And so, oh my gosh, still has a decent amount of runes at the ready. All 5 looks like are still up, because the 2 that were sacked were, of course, the ones that were played for switcheroo. So still has 5 left to be able to be utilized. Gold cannot be used yet. It has to be readied. So it takes a whole turn for it to cook, essentially. gosh, this is going to be a very tough situation here. But again, like, not having that hard bargain, too, is very difficult. And so, yeah, the pit rookie is going to be going to 7 now. And so that's going to be 8 on one side, or, sorry, 9 on one side of the Draven. And then we're going to be going 7, 11, 12, plus 5. So 17. There is so much there. And again, he very well could go like a fight or flight to push out now the pit rookie. But that's going to be two of his 5 runes. And so it's like, is this going to be enough? Oh, the stack deck trying to dig for an answer. 1, 2, and 3. Ooh, the rebuke is going to be really good. Now, of course, the action speed of this, and I mean, you can only imagine the pressure that he's feeling right here, because digging for 3 can really try to give you the answer there. And it's like, do I really want to sacrifice my other 2 runes on a rebuke to at least remove 7? Because if you remove 7 of that, then it's still going to be 10. But then you can play, oh no, he doesn't have the signature spell anymore, I don't think. Gosh, it's going to be so close. I can see exactly why they are spending as much time as they're spending on this showdown. Any little misplay here is going to be deciding the match. Also, could even... Nope, can't have another punch first. Not enough orange there. Still has 1 rune at the ready. Essentially a dead rune at this point. I'm not sure. Could still worry about maybe a call to glory, but even still, that might not be the thing to be utilized here. Yeah, so again, this is going to be a very difficult scenario for him to be able to play through. Still 4 runes at the ready. Could rebuke. Could even, I mean, if he found another switcheroo, that'd be absolutely insane. And that would probably, no, that wouldn't decide the game. That wouldn't decide the game. Not even close. Yeah, the rebuke was one of the best finds here. So yeah, the stress here. I mean, in the finals, 7-5. If you hold, you win. If you don't hold, Draven wins. You have 1 card in hand. There's not going to be any way necessarily to come back from this. And so yes, he has finally decided. And then, yep, you know it. You're going to see his reaction when the rebuke comes out. It's probably going to be on the pit rookie. Oh, ride the wind. Never mind. Interesting. Okay, so Ride the Wind resolves. That's going to be +4 added. 2 runes left at the ready. And it looks like that is going to be getting everything except for the Fiora, but only 2 runes left. Oh my gosh. And then 2. Recycling 2 for the Falling Star to clear it out. And this is a very dangerous situation for Fiora to find herself in. I mean, now it's going to be 5. 1 card in hand. And even with the Draven having, only 2 runes, that gold is still going to really help. And having even just 1 unit in base is going to really help. And so we'll see how this ends up going. Ooh, not necessarily the best card draw here, but still, you're at least able to get Lucian. Weapon Master is going to go good. Go Mighty. And then playing... yeah, that is not what you want to see there. Going up to 6 now for the Draven player. Gold is at the ready. Fiora is not necessarily having a whole lot here. So 6 to 7. And we'll see how all of this is able to unwind here as we get ever closer. Gosh, look at that discard. That discard, I mean, we called out how few cards he had in the discard. And a turn and a half later, he now has everything in the discard. Gosh. So yeah, this is going to be, I mean, kind of a death by 1,000 cuts here. Because it's like you can go and reinforce the one battlefield. The Overzealous fan is going to be able to respond with that defense there. And this is going to be the biggest thing. It's like, gosh, how do you go about this? Because if you're also worried about any accelerated unit at this point, to be able to take both battlefields, that is going to be scary. Any first mate, the yellow Fiora, also very scary. But still, it's almost even like, yeah, if you got it, you got it. If you don't, you don't. And again, this is the final, so there's already a great deal amount of pressure. Clocks are off. You're not going to be pressured for time. You can take your time and play this finals match for however long you need to. So there we go. There's going to be a treasure. Treasure hoarder. Treasure hunter, sorry. I always call it treasure hoarder. I don't know why. Then also a Noxus Hopeful. That's going to be a big deal there. And here's the thing. No cards in hand for the Fiora, though. Even still, again, that's scary. Because if you just top deck the correct answer... I mean, yeah, because there could be a challenge, which would immediately rule out and allow you to win. You know, first mate, which could... Gosh, yeah, because Lucian could conquer, go out, and... move right back in. There's so many different answers potentially. But going to be passing. No runes at the ready. Noxus Hopeful in base. And yeah, what did he draw? Why did he have to peek like that? We want to see. So yeah, immediately going to be going in. And this is the hard part. How are you going to, even if you do hold, I mean, this has been such a grind for both competitors here, but is going to be going for the full reinforce here. Gonna be going out with the BF sword and equipping it. That's gonna go mighty. A lot of runes still left to be had, and another Fiora that is going to be coming out. 3 runes at the ready, though no cards in hand. So again, you're going to have to deal with this kind of board state. Going to be at 6 runes, so even if there's like a 1-drop in hand, could go with the dares. There's the 1-drop. You could go cleave with... Oh my gosh, you could go cleave. He's doing the math. He's excited now. There's still 3 runes at the ready, but that doesn't matter. No cards in hand. Darius Cleave would go up to 10. So you have a total of 15 there that will be able to be acted on. That's going to be according to also the 5. But nope, looks like going to be seeing if there's any response. So yeah, nope, no response. And then switcheroo again. So again, you're seeing what Treasure Hoarder is able to do here. Going down now to 1 for his opponent. And that is gonna be the game number 1. And guys, that is about as tight as it can get. And so, I mean, you can only imagine how intense everyone was feeling about that. I mean, that is going to be a very hard situation to try to play through, and it can go either way at that point. Any signature spell would have decided that, but instead, of course, there was no signature spell. There was nothing necessarily to be had there, and so we are going to be going in now to game number 2. We'll see how the side decking goes, how everything is going to be played, but guys, there is a lot to be seen here as we go into game number 2 and what very well could be deciding the match. Obelisk of Power is coming in. 3 runes are going to be played as the card is drawn. Starting out with, yeah, there we go, Treasure Hoarder. That's what you love to see. Going to be channeling an additional rune with Obelisk of Power. And then is going to be playing the Fiora out and same pass. So a really good start there to be able to get some answers going. The biggest thing that I think hurt here is not having the Fiora signature spell this last game. Just really slowed things down to the point that, you know, we just got in a little bit of trouble there. And so already right there, you're seeing that we're able to have the treasure go into the Dreaming Tree. And that's going to be scary because now Draven can start drawing cards off of that too. And so even if you do go Ride the Wind, that's going to select, that's going to draw the card, that's going to create another treasure token, that's going to be readied up. It then can move back to base, making another treasure token, going up 3 in that case. Such a powerful turn at that point. And then another treasure hoarder. I don't have enough treasure. I need to hoard more. I know it's called Hunter. I will call it Treasure Hunter. But I mean, at this point, it is a treasure hoarder. And so again, yeah, this is going to be really interesting to try to figure out how to properly deal with this answer. But still, that still is going to be a pretty good answer going into the Dreaming Tree. And then, yep, the BF Sword is going to be equipped. So it's like, hey, even if you are able to deal with everything, I'm at least going to be getting 2 cards off of that and channeling a rune. So far, a really good answer there. And then even hiding a card. So you're assuming even a Hidden Blade. So potentially drawing 5 cards there. Because if you target that, that's going to be 2 cards for the unit, 2 cards for the Hidden Blade, 1 card for the Dreaming Tree. Really good option right there. 5 cards. That is going to be a big difference here. And going into now 7 runes is going to be really helpful there as well. But again, tapped out. I mean, heck, might as well even move both treasure hoarders over. I mean, again, you do have to worry about switcheroo. There's always a lot of PTSD from game 1 on switcheroo at this point for the Fiora player. And there's the gold spent. And there is a Forerunner. Now, this is such a great unit, too. He only runs 1 in the deck, if I recall correctly, which means that he, I mean, that is a good one to have at this point to be able to hold the battlefield here. We also haven't seen him necessarily hide too many cards yet. He's been playing, like, the switcheroos and saving them for encounters here. Making another 2 gold and saying pass. So basically, he's already up in runes at this point, and very well could be now stacking the other battlefield, saying, well, if you can't get this back, I'm going to keep going up in points. And at this point, do you activate the Hidden Blade here? Because, again, you're already a little bit mindful and worried about the switcheroos. And if it dies with a switcheroo, then it's not going to be able to... Yeah, it's not going to be able to draw the 2 cards off of that, even if you Hidden Blade after the fact. Now, you can Hidden Blade in response to the switcheroo, and then the unit would be destroyed at a higher might because switcheroo has not activated yet, so you can chain it properly. Yep, but looks like the Hidden Blade is going to be going in on that. We're going to see, nope, tapped out, no responses there. So Dreaming Tree going to be drawing 1. Hidden Blade going to be drawing 2. Then the BF Sword going to be drawing 2. And the BF Sword is going to be going back to base. You can then equip that even to the Fiora if you want. Lucian would also be even a good option here. A lot of cards in hand, but you got to be able to have the answers to be able to start taking care of these battlefields. And that's going to be the difficult choice here to be made. And especially when you have too many cards in hand. So again, you got to get the sequencing, and sometimes having too many cards in hand can hurt you. Because you're like, well, what's the correct line at this point? That's going to be the hard part. Looks like he has decided, though, going to be going with the Lucian. The BF Sword is going to auto-equip with Weapon Master, going to become Mighty, channel a rune, and pass. And I got to say, is Switcheroo going to be the MVP? Or, I mean, at this point, you could argue that Treasure Hunter. But, I mean, I really think Switcheroo was going to be that big difference maker of Game 1. Draven is going up to 8 runes here. A lot to be able to use. If there is a Darius, anything like that, could be well utilized. A lot of gold. And you can even move now both of the Treasure Hunters back into base to create another 2 gold. You are not going to be having a power issue at all in this Game 2. Yeah, that's going to be the biggest thing here. And so here we go. Going to be switcherooing and moving in. Now, that's a good option there. I really like that sequencing there. Now, again, the unit, the Forerunner, stays upright because it is a move due to an ability, so it doesn't become tapped as though it moved by itself. But still, that is going to be a face breaker to stun it. But still, a lot of runes left out. 1 card's already been played. A Darius can now come in. You know what you have to deal with. You still are worried, though, about the... no, actually, because they're both stunned, right? Yeah. Yep, they're both stunned. And so you could go in with a Draven because at this point, it doesn't matter how much you stack it up. If you had a punch first, it doesn't matter. It's already stunned till end of turn. So yeah, that's going to be the play there. Yep, there's going to be a Darius going in, going up to 7 at this point. And going to be moving in. Again, this is going to be... Oh, a Hidden Blade, though, coming down. But again, giving 2 cards over to the Draven is going to be very difficult here to try to deal with. I mean, that was one of the things that got his combo pieces starting to move so early on. And yeah, it looks like both Treasure Hunters are going to be moving back. 5 treasure out onto the field at this point. That is absolutely insane. And again, so long as he controls the battlefield, you can go back and forth and create that 2 gold every single time. Love it. Love it or hate it, it's a great play. So let's see then. The Lucian is able to move in. It's now 4-4. The Fiora might very well be backing out, trying to fight to live another day. And the Lucian also is going to be pulling back. Now, the scariest part about this, though, is you are hoping that you have the responses on the following turn to be able to take the battlefield. And if not, then you can really fall behind. So there is a big risk. But again, what's that risk going to be? Can I hold and hope that I am able to answer Draven's abilities? Or if he wins combats, am I just in trouble at this point? And so already playing out a lot of units here. So a lot of power to be able to attack back in. Again, he has a ton of cards in hand. I'm counting 6. It's sometimes hard to see with foiling. But still. A lot of gold. I mean, you know, I would fumble so much gold too. Like if I had that much gold in a base trying to get it all upright. Well, and here's the thing too. Like, if I was game 2, if I was getting close to actually winning the finals, you know, I would be shaking for all get out. You know, I definitely would be. And I mean, I already know how I am at like a skirmish when I'm about to win it. You know, or you know, things along that. But it's still. Nah, I mean, this Draven deck has just been so powerful, and having the treasure hunters coming out so early is allowing him to be able to keep his runes out and just have so much gold. He's not going to have to recycle a rune for the rest of this game, period. And it's going to be showing. You know, that's going to be one of the biggest difference makers here, is that I'm going to have 12 runes out. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to be drawing a ton of cards and taking control of this game. That's probably what's going to be happening here. And then here we go again. Moving in. And that is going to be another point on the board, going up to 6. 6-4. So now both have to be here. Again, you have to worry about the overzealous fans. You have to worry about fight or flights. We haven't necessarily seen either, though, in this game. But still, a lot of runes up. And even on the flip side, there's going to be a lot of runes there, too. I mean, he's going to be, as the Fiora player, going up to 10. That's scary, and especially with 6 cards in hand, that's not going to be something that you want to try to figure out to play around. That's a lot of cards and a lot of scariness to have to then deal with. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. So again, just going to be building up the backfield a little bit, preparing for the next attack. I mean, hey, that's a good choice there. I like that. And then a falling star. Now that's going to say, all right, well, who are you going to attack with? And that's the scary part, too, with falling star, is that you can only play reactions to that. So it's like, hey, I can't necessarily buff my units with like a punch first because that's at action speed. And so you're almost at the whim there of your opponent. So you got to be a little bit careful about how to go about that. But still, this is going to be a very fun ending of this match. Both players have been able to build up their fields, but they need to be able to have their answers. And so, and again, you got to be careful about what you pick, because especially for us, it might very well be like, oh yeah, you just double tap the Fiora, double tap the Lucian, or, you know, whatever else it might be. But it's like, You know, if you do happen to call that wrong, it can bite you in the butt and punish you hard. And so you got to be very careful about how you go about that, especially when you've played for so long. You've made it, you've proven yourself, you are in the finals, and the last thing you need is that little bit of a misplay. There is a challenge in hand, too. A lot of really good cards to be able to utilize and deal with this board, but still, you got to be worried about that backfield. You're seeing 2 of the Noxus Hopefuls. You're seeing the Draven, which can be going up to 6 because of his ability. You have more than enough runes to be able to do so, and gold. You can spend gold to be able to get him up to 6 with his champion ability. I mean, this is going to be very tough. And so there goes the Lucian. Lucian's going to be going in. You got to be worried about the switcheroo, but the challenge is going to be activated at action speed, taking out the Draven. Now, that is going to be damage, though, but you're going to get the card off of the Fiora. So you have to be hoping that the 4 Draven... Uh-oh. Is this going to be a trade at this point? No, it's not. Okay, good. I was like trying to do the math really quick, but luckily not a trade. That would have been a scary situation there. But at least the Draven is tapped out, so you're able to do your turn as clearly as possible. But again, if you take out the Forerunner, they're going to be getting 2 3-bot tokens, essentially. That 2 3-might bot tokens, let me say that correctly at least, which can be making a really big difference. That 6 might is going to be able to push in with the 2 Noxus Hopefuls to really make it devastating to try to defend here. So you got to be so careful. But again, if you leave a battlefield open, that's going to be going up to 7, and then immediately everything is going to be going in to the battlefield. And again, they're showing the prize card here. I mean, gosh, could you imagine? It's also really cool that they kind of change the prize card every season. So every set, you're going to be getting essentially a different prize card. So they're going to be reinforcing there a little bit, pushing back. And then going with, oh, that's a good combo piece right there. I like that. So, yep, the first mate is going to be able to ready up the Lucian after it backed out safely. And that's going to be some big help there. So, yeah, looks like that will be a trade. The BF Sword will be going back to base. You then can equip that over into the unit. But again, this very well could be the final turn because both battlefields need to be taken here. Still a lot of runes at the ready, so there's going to be a lot to have to play through here. And that's going to be the hardest part about this. And a hidden card. And so, yeah, it's like, hey, if you go in over at this side, that's probably going to be a hidden blade to take out one of your units and help defend a little bit more. A lot of runes at the ready. Could have the signature spell in hand, something you got to be mindful of here. But yeah, I mean, this is for everything. 6-5. The Draven has the turn coming up here. Going to be at 12 runes. So much. Gosh, you can only imagine what they're going through right now. And yeah, that's going to be a pass. 5 runes out the ready. That is scary for the Draven player. A lot of different combinations that you could be worried about here that you need to play through. Now, luckily, he does have 5 units out on the board. More than enough gold. All of the runes out on the table. No rune deck exists at this point. And oh my gosh, the top deck of the Thunder. That, I think, might be the thing that decides this finals. Playing Thunder Song, no cards can be played. Oh no. That's what you love to see right there. That is going to be the shutdown. Reaction speeds at that point. Could be playing also the Hidden Blade if he so chooses. But, I mean, at this point, it is going to be essentially over here. Going to have to get over the shield and the deflect and things like that. But still, Thundersong still has 6 runes at the ready otherwise. Gosh, you can only imagine how that feels. That was the answer. So even the hidden card is now locked down and will fizzle away when the battlefield is taken. So now you got to be super careful. It's like, okay, I got the card. Now what? Now what do I do? How do I get through this wall that's been built up for me to win the finals? So immediately going to be going in 6-5. That's going to be a point right there. Going to 7. Still has a 1 combat. That's going to be an additional card drawn with the Draven Legend ability. Now, of course, they can kill one of the bots. So he's like, oh yeah, you can deal damage back. But I think they pretty much know what's already coming anyway. Not that it'll make too big of a difference, but you know, it does still happen. Then, of course, that's going to be a rebuke on the Fiora and taking the final battlefield for the champion to be crowned of Draven, being the first winner of Season 2 of Spiritforged. Now, a great win right there. Very well played. You got to see all of that utility there and why Thundersong is going to be such a big card to be able to use in this next meta. He main decks 2 of them. Rightfully so. Really good job there. Can't believe that both these competitors were able to play so well. Great job. I was blown away by the skill that they were able to have. But anyway, guys, what were your thoughts about the finals? What are your thoughts about the meta so far? Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, guys, have a good one.